Hello and welcome to Kloeker's Education Foundation, providing quality content for amazing teachers and students. This is our World History series, and this lesson is on Martin Luther. Now, before we begin, don't forget you can check out the link in the description below for a set of free guided notes to go along with this lesson. Let's dive in. Our essential question for this lesson is what motivated Martin Luther to compose the 95 Theses, and what were the consequences of that action? Our lesson is going to be divided into 4 parts: the causes of the Reformation, going into the social, political, economic, and religious causes, Martin Luther, the 95 Theses, and the response to Luther. By the 10th century, the Roman Catholic Church is dominating religious life in Northern and Western Europe, but people are beginning to criticize the church and some of its practices. They're feeling that the church leaders at the time are too invested in worldly pursuits, such as gaining wealth and gaining political power. And this is the beginning of a religious reform movement within the Catholic Church known as the Reformation. So let's talk about the causes of the Reformation. Socially, Renaissance values are leading people to question the authority of the church. The printing press made it more accessible to get books, made the Bible more affordable, and was printing books in the vernacular so local people could understand it. And this is contributing to the spread of ideas that will be critical of the church. Politically, monarchs and kings are challenging the Catholic Church as the supreme power in Europe, such as Henry VIII, and many leaders view the Pope as a foreign ruler and are going to challenge his authority over their domestic policy. This was even an argument in the 60s when President Kennedy was running for President of the United States, being the first Catholic president. Many people questioned whether the Pope was higher than his power in the United States. But as we all know, that was just a smear on the Kennedy campaign. Economic causes: European princes and kings are jealous of the wealth that the church is acquiring through tithes. Merchants are resenting having to pay taxes both to their king but also to the church in many cases. And there are religious causes. Some of the church leaders have become very secular and corrupt. Many are finding the church practices of indulgences as unacceptable. Now, to clarify, an indulgence was a priest would tell a church member, a parishioner, if you pay this amount of money, we can expedite someone's time in purgatory after their death to help them get to heaven a little bit quicker. And this practice was started by Pope Leo X. And Leo X was a member of the Medici family. Yes, that critical family of the Renaissance. One of their members is a major cause of the Protestant Reformation. Other examples include the fact that Pope Alexander VI admitted that he had several children. Many priests and monks were poorly educated and couldn't teach others. Other clergy members were married despite the church stance. They drank, they gambled. And we saw practices of simony and lay investiture, as well as the division of church and state, which upset many people. And this is where we introduce our main character, Martin Luther. Now, growing up, Martin Luther's parents wanted him to become a lawyer, but instead he became a monk and a teacher at university. He begins teaching scripture at the University of Wittenberg in the German state of Saxony. And he is going to draft a list of 95 theses, which are going to be 95 problems that he noticed within the Catholic Church, and he wanted to correct. He wanted to reform these issues. One of which being that he believed it was okay for clergy to marry, and this was, of course, against church doctrine officially. Historians even argue that this was solely caused because his request to marry was denied within the Catholic Church because he fell in love with a nun, and both of them would be breaking their vows. Now, Luther is going to take a stand against Johann Tetzel, who is going to be a priest selling indulgences. Now, this is a practice began by Pope Leo X, who again was a part of the Medici family, and it was to pay for the rebuilding of St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome. This, of course, is a pardon to release a sinner from performing a penalty a priest imposed on their sins, whether it is before or after their death. You could pay for an indulgence. Indulgences were not supposed to affect God's right to judge. But Mr. Johann Tetzel gave the impression that people were buying their way into heaven. And so on October 31st, 1517, Martin Luther posted his 95 Theses on the castle church door in Wittenberg. The 95 Theses were a formal statement, specifically attacking the pardoned merchants as well as a few other injustices he saw within the church, and this is the beginning of the Reformation. Time is going to progress after the Reformation. Martin Luther is going to be very bitter, and this, as you can see, is a caricature that he is going to draw of Pope Alexander VI in 1545, and as you can see at the bottom of the painting drawing going up, it is supposed to be a priest in his vestments, his robes, but as you get to the top and it is unveiled, it is a monster underneath. Martin Luther is going to be teaching, although not within the Catholic Church, and his teachings are going to differ greatly than that of the Catholic Church. Martin Luther is going to have an emphasis that good works are not needed for salvation, that a person could win salvation based off of faith alone, grace alone. He argues that church teaching should be based on the Bible, not what the Pope or church traditions or other founding fathers in Christianity have said, which could be corrupt or false. And Martin Luther is going to preach that priests need not interpret the Bible because all people with faith were seen as equals, and everyone with faith could then interpret the Bible. This Reformation is not just going to be within the Holy Roman Empire, it is going to spread into France as well. As you can see, this map of France, Protestant churches are the green dots, mostly located along the southern regions of France, and the yellow dots are going to be Protestant churches that are large and have several pastors within them. And let's talk about the consequences of this action. Now, Pope Leo X is going to threaten Luther with excommunication, of removing him from the Catholic Church if he did not take back these statements. But instead of taking these statements back, Luther is going to burn the Pope's degree, and then of course Leo excommunicates Luther, officially kicking him out and removing him from the Catholic Church. The Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, who is Catholic, is going to summon Luther to the city of Worms in 1521 to stand trial and to have a chance to recant or take back his statements, which he will end up not doing. And Charles is going to issue the Edict of Worms, which is going to declare Luther an outlaw and a heretic, and that no one was to aid or abet him. No one was supposed to give him food or shelter. However, people did not listen to the king's decree. Frederick the Wise of Saxony is going to shelter Luther. He is going to give him food, give him shelter, and while Luther is in Saxony, he is going to translate the New Testament into German. In 1522, Luther is going to begin preaching and return to Wittenberg. His followers will become known as Lutherans. And the princes in Germany that support Luther are going to band together in protest against those that were standing with the church, those who were against Luther's ideas. And this is how we get the word of Protestant. We can see the breakdown of religion on this map. The green is going to be Islam. The orange is going to be Eastern Orthodox. The pink is Lutheran, and the blue is going to be Catholic. With the notable exception of the Kingdom of England, which will break away and become the Anglican Church. This Reformation is, of course, going to shatter the unity within Europe. You can see that the Lutherans are dominating Within Central Europe, we have the separation with the Anglican Church, and we see the emergence of Calvinism in places like Scotland and Switzerland, and then, of course, throughout Western Europe. We also see that several universities were established as Roman Catholic universities, and then will either shift their philosophy to support the Protestant ideologies in the religion, such as Cambridge and Oxford, both being established originally as religious universities. So because of Martin Luther's action, Christianity has two main branches in the Western world, that is Catholicism and Protestantism. And you can see the history of Christianity in this diagram. Originally, we had the Great Schism in 1054 between the Orthodox and the Catholic. Then, in 1517, the Reformation, breaking Catholicism up into Protestant, and then those Protestant branches will again fracture, making the Calvinist and the Baptist and the Church of Christ and all of the others that will follow in their footsteps. So take a few moments and answer our essential question for this lesson. What motivated Martin Luther to compose the 95 Theses, and what were the consequences of that action? That wraps up our lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you found this video helpful. Check us out on Teachers Pay Teachers, YouTube, Rumble, and the Kloeker Education Foundation website. We have a ton of resources there that you might like. What's new and what's next in our series, click here. For something you might like, click down below. And to subscribe to our channel, click here. All of this and more is just a click away. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.